Welcome to the Own Your Choices, Own Your Life podcast. You've landed in the right place to learn how to own your story, release subconscious beliefs, rewire your mind, and step into the impact you know you're here to create. Through outspoken publishing and NLP certifications, we share the tools and subconscious shifts that expand your voice, your message, your confidence, and your leadership. I am your host, Marsha Van Weinsberg, NLP trainer, speaker, author, and publisher. I am thrilled you are here. Let's get started. Welcome back to the show. If you've heard the show, you know I say that all the time. I'm just grateful to have everyone here. And I want to, I'm like literally, it's the 1,000th episode. And it's so funny because I've had, as I sat there and I went, but it's not recorded yet. I could hear the mind, and what my mind was doing is like, okay, but we want to record it. And we want to do it well. We want to, serve everyone who's here. And that's really what I want to do, is I really be able to share a little bit of the journey and what the experience has been like. And through that, I promise you, by the time you're done, you're going to see yourself differently in the process. And you're going to see what is possible for you. And that's all I ever want, because this is a time where I feel that we all need to shine our light even more, because we'd all agree it's a little bit dark sometimes right now. And this is the time when most people will stop and hide. And it's more important than ever for people to step up and shine their light and share it. So the podcasting journey, you heard a little bit about it with Sue. I'm curious, how many podcasters or people who had podcasts in the past are here? So awesome. That's awesome. So does this number seem a little bit like a little bit crazy? Like it feels a little bit crazy. I can tell you honestly, there are a number of times I wanted to quit. And even recently having a conversation with a dear friend of mine who was saying, I think I'm done. Like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, well, do you want to do it? Or is it? And she's like, I don't think anyone's listening. I'm like, oh, so it's not that you don't want to do it. It's that you don't think anyone is listening. That's what we do. We get to like the root of what it is. And when you do something like this, I'm going to go. Yeah. So there were so many times I wanted to quit. And I just felt like, I don't know if this is what I meant to do, but I kept hearing the calling. So in 2017, I wrote my solo book, When She Stopped Asking Why. And it actually released in November. My book did. I decided earlier in the year that I felt like I needed to start a podcast to normalize talking about difficult stories. And the real turning point for me was, I felt, most of you know my story. I was a parent dealing with teen substance abuse at that time. And I felt that I knew I wasn't going to be the one to be able to create change for them, because I tried every single thing possible on the list. And I knew it wasn't going to be me. And I thought, you know what? I've always been a person who loves the hero's journey story, the heroine's journey story. And I went, someone's going to cross their path, and someone is going to cross their path and share a story. And as I thought about that, I remember having a moment thinking, but how dare you expect someone else to do it if you're not going to do it first? And that's where my show started from. And so ironically, I looked up the dates, and the release date for this episode will be probably close to April 27th or 28th, whatever the day is on that Thursday. And the first show was recorded on April 28th, 2017. And I was like, oh, that's actually very cool how that happened. So, but when you're doing this, it's okay to want to quit. It's okay to have those moments. It's good to check in. I'm going to share a little bit of the journey in how I got to decide to come to this point. So that was where I did. I'm going to start sharing stories. And for the first probably 2 and a bit years, it was maybe 3 to 4 episodes a month. It was very random. It wasn't structured. And I was doing it all on my own, but I was still working a full-time job. I had no idea that the podcast was actually going to be the thing that opened everything. If I hadn't done the podcast, I wouldn't know most of the people here. I wouldn't be doing what I do now. And yet it was the one idea that most people thought was crazy. So, are you willing to go and follow through on something that is a vision that not everybody can see? And I often say that no one else is supposed to understand your vision because like it's not a conference call, right? Like no, like the call's yours, it's no one else's. But are you willing to see it through? And if you get to a point of like you start something and it's like this isn't a fit anymore, that's very different. So I decided to keep going. And in 2020, I think we agreed, I think it was like somewhere in 2022, Sue came on board. And we had one issue where I moved the podcast to a platform. I think we lost 100 episodes. It was an absolute headache and a half. You remember this? And I was like, I had a moment where I do a lot where it's like the line in the sand. And the moment for me was like, okay, you're either going to drop the podcast and not do it anymore and move on because you decided, or you're going to change platforms, lose episodes, lose downloads, lose everything, and just start over. And so we did. I decided that that was what we were going to do. And that was probably close to episode 400, which is still a long time ago. But that's really the journey. And so today I want to share with you some of the things that will help you to maybe chase after your dreams a little bit more. Would that be okay with you? Okay, amazing. So I'm going to ask you some questions before we get started because I like to ask questions. And our subconscious mind, how many people are familiar with subconscious mind here? Okay. How many people have heard the word and have no idea what it is? That's okay. I love that. That's okay. That's okay. So how many people here have a phrase or something that they say to themselves that they don't want to say to themselves that comes up often that is like, that is not helpful. And those words come up. Okay. We're going to talk like only a couple of hands. Wow. Impressive. Really liars, but impressive. So, we, so, we're, so we're in this space and we're going to talk a little bit about learning how to change the thoughts and the words that we're saying to ourselves. And when we change the thoughts and the words that we're saying to ourselves, the next piece is stacking our wins, but also stacking our wins to understand how many people get stuck in, I'm not there yet. I'm not where she is. I don't have 1,000 episodes. I don't have this, or not as good as somebody else. Anyone has? Okay. So that's another piece that happens and that can stop us. And then the third piece that we're going to cover today is the push and pull motivation. Okay. I love this analogy. And it's something that I think when Kim Fitzpatrick asked me, somebody who's a great expander for me, when she asked me, like, how do you get to 1,000? Like, what is it? What's the thing? And that's what it really kind of got me percolating on it to think about it is what are some of those steps? The push and pull motivation, all of a sudden, it's the things that drive you that make no sense to anyone else. It's a pull. It's a pull. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then that's the process that we all get to go through in order to become who we are and what is available for us. Okay. All right. So let's start with the words that we tell ourselves, the words that we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we tell ourselves, that phrase that comes up that you're like, why do I say that? Like, I don't believe it, but I don't know why that comes up. Our subconscious mind is running 95% of who we are. So our thoughts, our beliefs, our decisions, our choices, no matter what. What does that mean? It means that I can set a great goal. I am going to start the podcast. I am going to write the book. This is what I'm going to do. And that's kind of putting yourself out there. And typically that makes you a little bit more visible. And visibility can be a little bit uncomfortable for us, right? Because we're normal. And so putting yourself out there, it's like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to like hire this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get all these things done. And we don't stop to ask ourselves, how do I feel about that? Does that feel doable? Is there a belief system in me that thinks that that's not possible? That's where you start. That is always where you start, is in that belief system. And the simplest thing that you can do is ask yourself, what are the words that you're saying to yourself that are not working for you? So in 2017, probably 2014, I was saying the words stuck. All I could think was stuck. I was stuck. I was stuck. I was stuck. And, I've been doing all of the things like counseling and going and trying to find a solution. And I remember I was watching Tony Robbins, and he is actually one of the people who brought NLP mainstream. And NLP is neuro-linguistic programming for people who don't know. I didn't know that's what I was doing. And I'm listening to him, and he was like, so think of the words that you say to yourself. And I noticed that, yeah, I say stuck all the time, and because I felt it. And so I started to track it. Well, when you get to 57 times in 10 minutes, it's like, well, no wonder I'm feeling that way. Like, that's it. So how do I change that? And so you starting to work to change the words. And so for me, why was absolutely killing me. Why me? Why us? Why them? Why is this happening? This is not fair. Why? And again, language, you have to get to a point to recognize that's not supporting you for where you want to go. And our subconscious mind, when we speak in negatives, it doesn't understand, right? Don't think of a purple elephant, because what did you just all think of? It doesn't understand. And we as humans don't often speak about what we want, but we know what we don't want. We are so good at knowing what we don't want, but we don't have a clue what we want. And there'll be times I'll start with a client, we'll go through some intake when we come in, and they will be telling me, like, I've got a page of what they don't want. I'm like, what is it that you want? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, let's think about it. Like, what else would you like? What do you want? And then all of a sudden it comes up and it's like, doesn't matter, because it's not going to happen anyways. And I'm like, you are correct. You are correct. Would you like to change that? So the words have power. And for me, the why was killing me. Why is great when you're working towards a goal. It's terrible when you're going in reverse. And so I started to change it to what? Every time I said why, I was like, no, what? What am I doing? What's an action word? How do I change that? And I remember when I told my publisher that I had the name for my book when she stopped asking why. And she was like, no one's going to get that. And I'm like, they're all going to get it. They're all going to understand it. And it's been the case. So again, she thought that was a crazy title, way too long, didn't make sense. And I'm like, that's the title. Like, stay with what you know is meant for you. So when you can change those words, you can change how you show up. That changes your decisions and your choices. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, it is. It is. I'm not going to lie to you there. But it's also a lot of work to have a life that you don't want, that makes you miserable, that keeps you stuck, that you're not feeling good. Yeah. And eventually, in the beginning, it takes so much work to change something. It's like, honestly, like, why am I doing this? But eventually you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, that I used to do that all the time. I forgot about that. And you continue to evolve into becoming who you are. And that is what happened with this podcast. See, to me, in 2015, 2016, when I was listening to everything and I was starting to do some talks on stage and I was writing, I remember the word choice. For somebody who feels stuck, having a choice gave me power, like personal power. And so I got to a point where it was like, that's not my choice. That's not my choice. And all of a sudden I realized that not only was I taking on everything to own it choice wise, but I was taking no responsibility for myself. And that was when it was like, no, there's an agency of knowing you have a choice in your life. And some of the hardest things that you can do is to respond when you are facing a difficult situation, responding differently. And it's, anybody all of a sudden put boundaries up in their life and like the rest of your world is like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Why are you acting? Like, why are you doing this? And it's like, that's the thing. When you change, things around you will change. And speaking of change, again, I wouldn't know most of you if I hadn't started this. I wouldn't know most of you. And I can't even imagine that. And I wouldn't get to do the work I do today. And when 2020 came and my job of 27 years, my career was gone overnight, this was like, well, hey, I guess we're going to figure this out. I remember. And it was the next morning. They're like 2 weeks. We're not going to go there. 2 weeks off. And I remember Brad saying, like, you can take a day. Like, you don't need to. And I'm like, no, what if this is the time? Like, what if this is the time that I prayed for? And I just put my head down to try and figure it out. And it was messy, and it was so messy, and it was so hard at times. But again, I would remind myself, well, it's hard to do nothing. So which one do you want? You get to choose, right? You always get to choose. So choosing the name, own your choices, own your life. Again, first off, 2017. I mean, podcast? What do you know about podcasting? Like nothing. Like Absolutely nothing, except that I love listening to them and they help me. And to me, it's a free resource. And that's something that's really important to me because that was something that helped me so much in the early stages, is having something to just put in my ears and shift my thinking. And so I said, no, own your choices, own your life. And you know what's really cool? Like, you can have a podcast, you can rebrand it. And I mean, like, do all of that. That's amazing. And I love it. For me personally, I'm like, that is the brand. That is who I am. And that feels so good that that is really what it comes down to, is choices. So when you can take that phrase that you keep saying that gets in the way of where you want to go, and you can change the words on repeat over and over and over, don't be shocked if things start to change. Okay. The second piece, I'm gonna need more water. There's no way. Sorry. I
We're gonna try to be classy, but
know. I said, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so to loop that back, thank you. That would have been in my office. That would have been edit, Sue. That's what I say. It will be now. It will be. She'll leave those in there. Um, but changing your language is something I would call an invisible win that I think most people skip over. It's so simple, but it's so huge. Okay. So I call it an invisible win. The next one, not being where you want to be yet. Okay. Not being where you want to be yet. Again, it gets so easy to look out at where everyone else is and think that, like, I'm not there. I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. It's just too, it feels so big and daunting. And we all have our own journey as we come here and what we're doing. And it feels like um, it's easy with social media to be caught in comparison, right? It's very easy. And it's important that we keep coming back to where we are today. So if we are always focused on where we are not yet, then we are missing the magic in the invisible wins of today's moment. We're missing it. Okay. And more importantly, you're missing yours. Because if you miss where you are every day, you forget to come back to that. And you know why it's important? Because at the end of the day, I say this to my clients all the time. And I mean, as much as I love gratitude, sometimes I get some like comments for that, but I do love gratitudes. But if your mindset, and if I swear, I'm sorry, it might come out. If your mindset is so shitty, pasting some gratitudes on top of that doesn't change how you feel. The gratitudes have to change how you feel. And if you can't do that because there's too much happening over here, you got to deal with what's happening over here first. There's nothing wrong with that. And so stacking your wins and seeing those wins every day. You know what happens is when you anchor those wins every single day, you are building your own evidence box so that when you have the next day that you stumble and you can't figure out what to do and you feel like you're losing, and you feel like it's not working, it's like stop and look. And I will share honestly, like I have no problem sharing my old work. I actually have had people say to me, I can't believe like you shared that first episode where I'm like, absolutely. I call that the cringe ladder. And I'm like, listen, if you're not building a cringe ladder, you're waiting way too long. I love that quote. If you are not embarrassed by the work that you are putting out, you are waiting way too freaking long to put something out. Okay. Way too long. And so when you stack your wins, you're building your own evidence. Do you know how many times a day I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, have I been here? Been here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been here. Yeah, I've been in this feeling and I know what this feeling is. And I can go look for the wins that I am stacking in to see. And you're building that up for yourself. So if all of a sudden we're changing our language and we're now seeing ourselves differently on the journey and you're stacking your wins, that adds up. All of a sudden now we're building more for yourself. The other thing I want to tell you about your words and your language and where you are and where you're not, your mind, your words are only ever going to speak about where you're going or where you've been. That's it. Okay, that's just it. So if we're always speaking about where we've been, you can look back and be proud of where you've been. But if you're trying to replay something and get an answer, you're not ever going to get it. So spend the time being here. The other thing, when you stack your wins and you anchor them in, you learn how to be more present. And that was something that I knew today I wanted to be able to anchor in on. Past version of me was like, cool, 1,000, what's next? Like, that's who I was. Push and push and push and push. And it's important that you pause and you stack a win and you anchor it in and you celebrate the moments. Okay. The next, when we fix our words and our language, and we come over here and we are being in a space of stacking our wins, all of a sudden, what started as a push motivation can actually shift to a pull motivation. Push motivation. Damn, I was a good pusher. I could push to I snowball up a hill. Got it. Yep, got it. Yeah. You need something else done? Yeah, I worked 12 hours. I'm fine. I can do it. I can do it. I'm strong. I can do it. And that's what it was. But that is a proving energy, and that will take you nowhere except stuck and not moving. And so I found myself in this constant state of push. Now, listen, I'm going to say this. I think that every change that you create starts with a push. We're humans. We have to get our back up against the wall enough. Something is not working, something that we've avoided, something that is like we're not looking at. And all of a sudden, that task that you put off that was going to be like you thought, oh, it's going to take me hours to do, I don't want to do it. And you go do it, it's 20 minutes. Like that, we have to have a push sometimes to get ourselves started. There's nothing wrong with that, but you cannot sustain on a push. The fire that starts you, awesome. But if you only use that fire to keep going, that fire eventually burns you and you burn out and it's not enough. And that driving energy, if this is hitting home for anyone, because this is just like me, mirror reflecting me, the driving, pushing fire energy, literally underneath of it comes from the message of not enough. It's never enough. And it's coming from a space of never enough. And if it's never enough now, it's never going to be enough. You have to get to the root of the story rather than work hard. And when we're in that push motivation, sometimes we stop ourselves because it's like, I don't know how to do it, right? Like I'm in a podcast, I don't know how to do it. The number of times Sue and I are back and forth, I'm like, I'll search it up. I'll just Google. What did Google say? Literally, I don't know. What did Google say? That's how we have built everything that we're doing. And honestly, in this day and age, there's nothing you can't find on Google or chat. I know it's annoying to learn that way, but honestly, it's not the how. If you think it's the how, ask yourself more questions because it's under the how. Most of the time, it's who's going to listen, who's going to read my book. Nobody cares. Like those are the messages. And I'm telling you right now, I've worked with a lot of people, all the same. And that is people who are just starting, people who have had massive success, all the same process. So when we can shift from a push to a pull, all of a sudden it gets easier. And how do you do that? There was a point, again, we told you the story when we first started, and 400 to 600 was kind of like, you just kept going. We're figuring out our systems, what we're doing, pandemic, what do we, like, it just was so wild of a time. And so we just kept going. But I remember it was probably like when we did move it again and lost all of our stats. And I mean, stats, listen, it's for me, it's not for anyone else. It's a space of seeing how much it's growing and what's happening. And when that was probably around 2023, I remember when I got a pitch from Kute Blackson, and it's okay if none of you know who he is. He wrote a book called You're the One. And in 2014, he was probably the first personal development book that I read. So imagine you're the very first personal development book you've read, and they pitched to be on your show. And I'm like, okay, what's happening here? This is very cool. And that's not ego. That is just like the word is spreading. And that's all I wanted. And then shortly after that, I was able to interview Paul Hutchison before The Sound of Freedom came out. And I don't even know how to describe that conversation, because having a conversation with somebody who had actually like gone to the jungles and rescued kids who were trafficked was like, that's where I was like, holy, this feels good. These are the conversations that most people don't want to have. And for me, I'm like, no, let's take a light and like shine on that. I do want to talk about that. And that was a turning point. All of a sudden it's like, oh, no, this is a pull. Like this is a pull and this is what we're doing. And so when it all of a sudden shifts, what felt like a tremendous amount of work and pushing to get that snowball going, all of a sudden started to shift into a pull. And I think the only way you get to something that only you can see is it has to come from a pull. It's got to be something that is pulling you forward. And if I even think back earlier in 2018, I started to notice that my podcast was getting downloads in South Africa. And I remember being like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. And then I got a couple DMs from somebody in South Africa saying, she was researching, looking for podcasts that would actually motivate her because she was going through a difficult time. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So then we got on a Zoom and we connected. And I said she was a victim of trafficking. And she said, no, I'm not. I'm a survivor. And I'm like, oh my God, you're my person. Like, this is just the language that she had for somebody who was in her early 20s, who grew up in a culture where trafficking was normal and had been trafficked by her mom. And then imagine what that was like when I knew that we were writing Owning Your Choices. I sent her a message and I'm like, we'd love to have you in the book. She's like, I'm a student on a scholarship. She had a dream of taking books, of writing her story in a book and speaking at the UN, because she said, every time I'm listening to people talk about trafficking who've never been trafficked, they don't even understand it. Like, they don't understand it. And so she was very driven that way. And we were able to, I said, let me see what we can do. And we were able to get a GoFundMe and got her chapter covered completely and got her story published. And, pandemic time. So we shipped her books. I think it took 6 months to get there because it was a little bit crazy time. And she was in the book. And that was a pull motivation. That's another time that it's a pull. The pull has to come outside of you. Your purpose is like, it's got to be something that when you open your eyes, you're like, I'm doing this. And honestly, if most of the people in your life don't get it, great. It's great. That's even better, because they're not meant to. They're not meant to. And so many times people will say, but nobody believes in me. Nobody is cheering me on. Nobody is supporting me. And I hear you and I understand. And my question is always, are you supporting you? Are you hearing you? Are you following what you want to do? Because that's where it starts. That is the only place that it starts. And everything else can come out from that point. And so when I hear people say, it's so amazing that you have so much support, it is. I'm beyond, like, honestly, trust me, I'm like beyond grateful right now. And it wasn't always that way. When you deal with a story that we dealt with, our entire lives changed. It's a family disease. It affects everyone. And our lives completely changed. And a lot of things had to fall away. And that was exactly what had to happen in order to build into who we are today. So when you change your words and you make the smallest change that you have had a really hard time like figuring out, you make that small change, you stack your wins, you actually be present and you see yourself for who you are and for what you have done, you will have the opportunity to shift from a push to a pull motivation to move forward. And all of a sudden it's like, that this is just pulling me now. This is pulling me now because you're in your zone. And that's what it takes. That, well, 100 other steps, but to bring your dreams to life. This show has given me the opportunity to talk to so many incredible people and deep, raw conversations. And I don't think there's anything that has allowed me to practice growing my voice like this. And I think it's a little bit of a diary for like 6 years where I've shared that journey. And whatever that is for you, I would love for you to continue to pursue that. And so I know I've said it but I would not actually have anyone that's here other than Brad. Well, I think so anyways, in my life. If I hadn't started this, and it's led me to connect with everyone here, and I'm so grateful. I really am. And I appreciate every single one of you for being here. And there's something that I want to say that I hope it will anchor for you as well. I'm really proud of who I have become in the process. It's crazy. Try that sometime. It's crazy how you can pour into everyone, and I can do that and go around and say how grateful I am for every single one of you, and I am. And when you say it about yourself, you cry, and it brings up an emotion, and it feels like, oh my God, that's just like feels weird. What am I doing here? It's like, but that's part of the process. Is it allows you to become who you have meant to be and what's available for you. So change your words, stack your wins, shift from a push to a pull motivation so that you can become the best version of yourself. And all of that, I think, they're invisible. You don't see it. You don't see any of it. Again, we see a celebration, and that's like, this is awesome. And I'm so grateful. I really am. That's the celebration. The wins are the times that I wanted to quit, that I didn't, that I turned on the mic, that I like maybe cried. I had a moment. That the wins are every single day, and they are available for you. They're available for you. And I really would love that. I hope that this has inspired each of you to focus back in on yourself so that you can see yourself and see what's available. As always, you are one decision away, one choice away from creating change in your life. That's it. It's one. We have a fork in the road every single day. We get to choose which one we take. And one decision, one choice, one change can change everything. It really, really can. And as I always say, if you own your choices, you own your life. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. Oh. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. I invite you to tag me on social media with your takeaways or share it with a friend. If you feel called, please leave a 5-star review, and I would be forever grateful. Until next time, remember, when you own your choices, you own your life.